Hello. And I've been doing some thinking. And this concept came to me a while back. And I've been expanding on it, looking, reading, watching YouTube videos of different conventions. And I've come to a very different conclusion. Uh, in the realm of gay marriage, it occurs to me that gay marriage could actually be one of the best tools to ever come about for straight men. I say this because with gay marriage becomes gay divorce. And with gay divorce, you get gay custody battles. And I've been paying attention to a number of these cases in the news, mainly local news. Very few end up going national, so trudging through the local news of 50 states is kind of tedious. But I digress. Specifically, lesbian divorce is of interest to me. And this is because the courts and, well, the laws and the court systems essentially have a brain aneurysm when dealing with it. It seems that most of the time they don't know what to do, and it almost seems as though the judges and court representatives at in the front of the court office, more often than not, are found slamming their head against a door frame because they just don't know what to do. Now, there are three separate categories that I've noticed, specifically in lesbian divorce. You have the formerly straight or bisexual or whatever female who goes into a lesbian relationship with a child already in existence. And then the partner adopts. So they become the parents. Now, then there's the second type. Well, these are lesbian couples that just decide that we're going to adopt. So neither of them are the biological parents. And then there's the third type that actively seek out fertility treatment and artificial insemination. I bring up these three types that interest me the most because, once again, the courts kind of have a brain aneurysm. It's gotten to the point where if a woman stays at home to take care of the kids, you're not allowed to hold that against her in the courts. So that way the courts are able to go and say, well, you're the man, you still got to pay, and simply because she was not able to work. Now she has been out of work, and so you got to pay even more. Then there's the courtroom logic of, well, if a woman works, then you're not allowed to hold that against her either. I find it somewhat humorous as to this duality. It's almost schizophrenic. Now, as a result, in a lesbian couple, one or both people involved are going to be working. And if one is at home, then it really doesn't matter which one. They're both women. You can't hold anything against either of them. It's also been used in the course that you cannot use a woman's income against her. So if one of them made more money than the other, then you can't hold any of that against either of them. So you can begin to see as to why the people that work at the courts are slamming their heads against brick walls, because all their laws are essentially designed to get the man. And when there's no man to be had, they have a stroke. So, in the case of a woman going into a lesbian marriage with a child of her own, that doesn't necessarily make that child hers anymore. There's this case in Florida where the biological mother who had the child before she went on this man-hating phase, and the lesbian partner won custody of her child after she decided she was no longer gay. So biological rights now essentially are nothing in comparison to gay rights. Okay, make a note of that. Now we have the couples out over that go and go the route of artificial insemination. I'm about to make the argument for the destruction of an entire industry. The case out over in Kansas of a gay couple, lesbian, they went on Craigslist to look for a sperm donor. Kind of gives you an idea of their mentality right there. But that's a different story. Now, the courts out over in Kansas are so anti-male that this is a lesbian couple. Both parents, legal parents, are female. But the court cannot accept this. So they're going after the sperm donor. He's not going to have any rights because he was a sperm donor. But the laws are written that the man has to pay. The biological father is responsible. I don't know about you, but I don't think getting paid $300 to $500 for leaving a DNA sample in a plastic cup is worth a minimum of 18 years of my labor, which actually Obamacare kind of brings a fair amount of that into question. For example, the whole reason why all this came about was because the lesbian couple they didn't decide. uh, but they fell onto hard times, so they had to ask for state assistance. Now, as a result, they were given Medicaid, and as a result, with Medicaid, the father has to pay in order to cover the cost of said health insurance. Now, since under Obamacare, that health insurance is expanded not from 18 years of age, but to 26 years of age. So, if that child remains on their health insurance, which is state funded, then that means that this poor bastard is gonna have to go and pay this couple for 26 years, not 18, 26 years for a child he has zero rights to, and he will never have those rights. Granted, I think that the laws out there are a little different than in other states, because each state has their own statutes, but this is something to think about. I've known some people who've gone and donated sperm to help pay for college, a car, insurance, a mortgage. I mean, there have been a number of reasons, and I have to admit, I've done it myself. Oh, I'm really wishing I could get that sample back. Anyways, getting back on topic. Then, well, we've covered the woman who's come in. We've covered the sperm donor. Now we gotta deal with adoption. I wonder how the courts are gonna handle this one. They'll probably just hook up a couple electrodes to each side of their head and hook it up to a generator, as their heads are going to explode with this. In many cases, it already has. But either way, in all of these cases, well, most of them don't exactly deal with divorce. These are just people going to try to get assistance. Some of them are divorce, and others are, well, just kind of weird. And the reason why I say it, this is the single best tool, or dare I say weapon, that we have against the court system, is as follows. Gay marriage begets gay divorce. Gay divorce begets gay custody battles. Lesbian, specifically, lesbian custody battles cannot be determined by gender. You could say that the same is true with gay men. In a sense, you'd be right, but the courts tend to go and lean towards the more effeminate male, as far as being the primary caregiver. With women, you can't hold any of that against either woman. Plain and simple. Every metric that they are used to using just shorts out. Now, with gay women getting divorced, the courts are going to be forced to look at the facts. The courts are going to be forced to go and take into consideration emotional stability, financial stability, family structure and support. These are all things that the courts are going to actually have to look at to make a judgment in the case. That is good. That is very, very good. Not only is it going to be a bit more beneficial to the children, which are woefully woefully underrepresented or cared for in many of these cases. But what that does is that leaves a record. That leaves a record of judgment and a record of metrics. What that does is that gives us, men, the ability to eventually file suit against the courts as well as state and federal legislature for equal representation and consideration within the courts. I wonder how many people have actually thought this one through. Now, is this going to help me being a divorced father? No, it's way too late for that. But what it does do is that it gives us a glimmer of hope that fair and equal treatment is at the end of the tunnel. And I say this not specifically gleefully. It's actually quite depressing that this is what has to happen in order for us to be represented. I mean, nationally speaking, men get custody of the children 10% of the time. Now that is including a fair number of cases where we have legal custody but not physical, as well as having physical custody but not legal. When you take all that into consideration, we essentially get shafted 94% of the time. I know it doesn't sound like a giant jump, but hey, it's what it is. Now, I was trolling around on the internet a little while ago, and I came across another tidbit in all of this. Alimony. I laughed because I saw a couple of news clips where the title was "The Problem with Alimony." I naively thought, well, maybe someone opened their eyes. I was wrong. Oh boy, was I wrong. What they were talking about was not alimony. It was female alimony. You see, they had these reports and interviews where the problem wasn't alimony. The problem was that as a result of this great recession, which is not a recession, it's a depression. That's a whole nother topic there. But as a result, fewer men are in the workforce. Now, women make up a huge portion of the workforce now. So you now have a lot of stay-at-home fathers. Well, not fathers, but husbands. If they're fathers, odds are they're being forced to get a subpar job and paying up to 65% of their income in child support. Oh yeah, and that is before taxes. But these women were complaining about having to pay their ex-husbands, and that it wasn't fair. I find this interesting because the issue of alimony was a non-issue when it was almost solely the men paying. But now that women are having to pay, now it's a problem? I wonder how this one is going to work out with gay marriage. I got this feeling some judge's head is going to explode. But as far as gay marriage goes and having to use actual metrics as far as judgment for child placement, I only see a couple ways for this to work, especially for straight men. We're going to have to get the laws put in place that neither party is to be allowed in the courtroom. They have direct contact with their attorneys through microphone, earpieces, and closed circuit television. So they're able to communicate with the court without the court knowing the gender of either party. Now this is to be expanded upon by not allowing any gender-specific words or phrases within the courtroom. Meaning, well, I should raise a child because he's a boy and he should be raised by a man. That won't be allowed. Or, well, I carried the child for 9 months. That will not be allowed. The words he, she will not be allowed. Only then, when based only on facts, can a judgment be made. These are just my thoughts, not faults. I do have plenty of those. But we all do. But it also comes to me, as a thought, that gay marriage is also going to have an effect on abortion policy. Bear with me for a second. Currently, if a woman gets knocked up by, well, whatever reason or whatever method, whatever situation, she can opt out in numerous ways. Men cannot. Now this rests solely on gay men in order to do this. So I don't see gay men as an enemy. I see them as compatriots and the ultimate MGTOWs. But gay women can, as discussed earlier, can go to a lab and get inseminated and gestate and pop the kid out. Men, we don't have the plumbing to do that. It's just not there. The tubes are in the wrong places. We don't have the right orifices or an incubator. We just don't have it. So men have to hire a surrogate. Now, it has come to my attention that a percentage of these men that go and hire a surrogate, they get shafted. Now, they get shafted in the fact that they will go and pay $40,000 for a surrogate. And keep in mind, that does not include the actual visit to the clinic and the act of insemination. It doesn't include all that, and that can run $10,000 to $16,000 a shot. And if it doesn't take the first time, you gotta do that again. And oh, is that expensive? Well, anyways, with the policies and the laws that are currently in place, a number of these women, well, a percentage, after collecting said money, they'll go and have an abortion on the taxpayer's dime. It's her body. Now, I say this rests on gay men for two reasons. One, after gay marriage is federally recognized, and it has to be federally recognized, gay men can prevent this from happening. There are already laws on the books to protect married couples. But since they are federal laws, not state laws, currently they are not protected. So once gay marriage is accepted federally, they fall, or their child now falls under the protection of the law. That means these women no longer have total say in the abortion process. That gives them parental rights while the child is still in utero. Because the current law mainly focuses on the mother, the biological mother, whose egg is implanted in the other woman's uterus, because she has medical issues or deformed a uterus or something that doesn't allow her to carry, some medical condition. The law focuses on the mother's rights, not the father's rights. But with gay men, there is no mother. We already know we can zap a sperm cell and create an egg, or we can take an egg, remove its nucleus, and take the DNA from one male, put it in the egg, and then we fertilize it with the sperm from the other male. And once it splits, it gets injected into the female host. Currently, they're not protected under law, and neither is that child. Once they are federally recognized, abortion policy must be changed, because, well, the law is already on the books. Unless you're going to start going and stripping mothers of their rights when hiring a surrogate, which I personally don't see happening, then that means parental rights must be given to the fathers in equal proportion. Well, those are just my thoughts. Thank you. Leave a comment. Any additional expansion on these thoughts, or constructive criticism would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And